Alright guys, I recently upgraded to a Vega 64 eGPU, and in this video I wanted to show you the performance you get from this upgrade. So I'll be showing you Unreal Engine, Unity and Xcode. And the major spoiler is that, of course, yeah, Unreal Engine runs faster than Vega 20, all that kind of stuff. Unity runs faster, but the major improvement is that my system is a lot more stable. So previously when I was compiling shaders or doing anything graphically intensive on my computer, if I go on Chrome and I try browsing the internet, it really stutter and my PC would overheat and the fans would go a bit crazy. So right now I'm in Unreal Engine and I'm on my 555X and I'm compiling shaders. It's only 600 to go. Interestingly enough, you can see that the GPU is going at 100. It's completely getting overloaded, and what that means is using apps is just horrendously slow. This page is it's going really choppy and slow because the GPU is being completely overloaded by Unreal Engine. Whereas now, if I'm doing anything intensive in Unity or Unreal Engine, my Mac runs pretty damn fine. So I really do enjoy the experience and I kind of do recommend it. But anyway, let's start off with the show. So first up, Unity. Just gonna launch a project I just built in Unity, ultra wide QHD play. And you can see it's smooth as butter, very smooth, no problems there whatsoever. It looks gorgeous. Gonna launch it again, but this time around I'm gonna have it on the internal display. And it's a bit more choppy. And this is how it performs using the 555X and the internal Vega 16. What's most interesting is that using the Vega 64 as external GPU, the discrete GPU, the 555X in this case, only uses 5 watts of power to blit the results on the screen. However, using Vega 16, that used up to 45 watts and 555X uses 30 watts. So as you can see here, very improved frame rates. We're now getting full 60 frames a second. Everything is running smooth as butter. Unreal Engine, how does that go? Alright, this is the digital human sample in Unreal Engine. And we're getting it between 11 to 16 frames a second, depending on if we're moving the camera or not. Digital human, and he's going currently over 70 frames a second. So when you move the mouse, it drops to around 22 frames a second. It's an action, and when you let go of the mouse, it goes over 70, around 75. I want to see how it performs on the lower monitor. Take a look, and let's hit play. And you are still, according to the display, you are still getting 60 frames a second on the internal display. The fan's around 4,200, and let's check out the GPUs. So the 555X, when it was rendering on the internal display, it used up to 80%, whereas most of the heavy lifting was done by the Vega 64. Look at that, 100% there. And memory, we was only using around 75% of it, 6 gigabytes. And CPU wise, the Radeon, the 555X, was only using 4 watts of power, and at most, when it had to render on the internal display, it was only using 9. Now typically it uses around 11 or 12 just by having the monitor on. And it's the shooter game running on the 555X. Let's hit the play button. We're getting around 30 frames a second. 29, 30. And if you look at it, just after playing that game, the fans have ramped right up. They shot up from 2,500 all the way, they've gone up to 5,000. So I've just fired up the shooter game and it's going 120 frames a second using the editor. When I spin the camera around, we're getting around 60 frames a second, and when I jump in to play the game, It's super silky, super smooth. It's around 80 to 90 frames a second. Yeah, it's 100 frames a second on this view. As you can see, I got a 4x bump, 4x improvement in Unreal Engine rendering. So again, that's very, very performant. Now let's look at Xcode. So in Xcode on the iOS simulator, I didn't notice much of an improvement. I tried ticking the prefer eGPU option and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, it was still compiling just the same, and the Xcode simulator was still running about the same. So there wasn't much of an improvement there. Perhaps the fans were a bit more timid, but not much of an improvement in Xcode. Of course, this depends. If you're doing macOS using Metal or OpenGL, you'll get an improvement, obviously, because you can utilize the eGPU. But if you're doing iOS kind of stuff, not much of an improvement there. Now, the one thing I need to add is you can use the eGPU with the internal display. However, just make sure you tick that prefer eGPU option and you'll get a nice performance bump on the internal display. And also, most importantly, you'll save a lot of watts. So on my Mac over here, the one I've got, the 555X, that guy can use up to 35 watts of power when it's rendering and using the 555X. However, on the Vegas, those guys, the Vega 20s and the Vega 16, they can use around 50 watts of power. Whereas when you get all the work being done on the eGPU, on the graphics cards, it just uses around 5 watts to blit the images on the internal display itself. So you save, 45 watts if you're doing Vega 20, 45 watts of power that can be pumped into the CPU, and of course it can make the fans go a lot quieter. So what do you guys think? Do you think eGPU is a good solution for you? I have been using mine for about good couple of weeks and I really enjoy it. Obviously there's benefits outside of this. You can play games and everything just seems a lot smoother. I've got improvements on other apps like Photoshop, Final Cut, all that kind of stuff. So overall I think it was a good buy. If you want to find out more information about the enclosure that I've got a super quiet one. This is the OWC Mercury one. It has a pretty much silent PSU, although I do recommend always having a 2-meter cable just to give it a bit of distance so you don't hear those little core whine. You get a bit of static noises coming out of the GPU itself. And I've got a nice ASUS ROG Vega 64, and that guy, he's just silent. He refuses. The fans just don't want to spin. Look at that. And the fans, when they do spin, they're very, very quiet. So overall, I think I've got a good system, but check the links below if you want to find out the reviews for that information. All right, I hope you found this video useful, and let me know if you're going to be upgrading your Macs with some eGPU power.